This is Chronicle Conversations. For the second straight summer, the world is struggling with COVID-19, but the planet itself is suffering under another scourge, climate change. In fact, just yesterday, the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, or IPCC, released its sixth assessment report, which found that the world's average temperature is rising faster than previously expected, and that the global temperature has been marked at 1.1 degrees Celsius above pre-industrial levels. And unequivocally, human influence has warmed the atmosphere. UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres, who's my boss, called the report a code red for humanity. Before the release of the report, the UN Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs, or OCHA, launched the Human Race campaign, billed as a global challenge for climate action in solidarity with people in the world's most disaster-prone countries and those hardest hit by climate change. I'm privileged to have two world-class athletes and global citizens here to talk about the campaign and their role in supporting it. Fernanda Maciel, if you could just say hello.
Hello.
Is a native of Brazil, currently living in the French Alps, I believe. She's an endurance mountain runner, or ultra runner, as you've been called. She has won the TDS Ultra Trail du Mont Blanc and the Ultra Trail Mount Fuji races, among others. She's also served as an environmental lawyer, bringing a unique social and environmental perspective to the world of endurance running. Her biggest personal project is called White Flow, through which she has completed a series of iconic runs to promote environmental and social issues around the world. Tina Muir is the founder and CEO of Running for Real, the largest global community of socially engaged runners. She hosts Running for Real podcast, a collective of conversations about running, the climate emergency, and social justice. It has been downloaded more than 4.5 million times. Tina has represented Great Britain and Northern Ireland in a world championship and has run a 2-hour, 36-minute marathon. That's great. Originally from St. Albans, England, she now lives in St. Louis, Missouri, USA with her family. Welcome to you both.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Before we get into the campaign itself, I'd like to hear a bit more about each of you. And I guess the first question I had was, how did you get into running, or you might have gotten into running at an earlier age, but how did you find the time and motivation to continue running as adults?
Well, I got into running as a transport because I didn't like to take the bus to go to the school and back home. So yes, I'm Brazilian, so I born in a big city, 6 million. And then to wait the bus was tricky, and I preferred to go walking and running. And then running was the transport for me. And
Wow.
I kept that. So after I started to race on the road as Tina, and then, but my love was for nature. So then I could add running, the sport that I love most, and in nature. And then 15 years ago, I started to run trail running in New Zealand. And then, yeah, I've been participating. I still participating with the World Championships of ultra distance on the mountains. And also I created this project, the White Flow, that after I can talk about.
Okay, great. We'll talk about that in a minute. What about you, Tina? How did you find the time to continue running?
Yeah, so I was a successful athlete as a teenager. Did well in the English, the national championship level. Was given a scholarship to go to university here in the US, and I've pretty much stayed here since. I went on to run at the elite level in marathoning, half marathoning, and I loved it, but I also was ignoring some health issues of mine. I was kind of known for not having a period for 9 years. I was the first person to speak out about that not being a healthy thing for a woman to do because of training so hard, not eating enough. And I actually ended up stopping, and that's where I actually became better known, was by quitting the sport to look after my health. And I've since had two beautiful little girls, and now I'm getting back into it, or I am back into it, and doing it for a different purpose, doing it for joy, as Fernanda mentioned, being out in nature, appreciation for just the ability to be able to do that, and realizing what a privilege it is. So trying to make an impact in a different way rather than just by performances, but what can I do on a bigger scale? So
that's great. And now you started Running for Real as a podcast, and it originally was mostly geared towards women, I think. Is that correct? But it's become something bigger.
Yeah. So I started I started my podcast and community as a place where, as an elite athlete, and Fernanda can definitely attest to this, all people seem to want to know about is, what do you eat for breakfast? What do you run? These very basic questions. And I was just really kind of fed up of just saying everything's supposed to be easy and everything is great and I feel amazing, when I didn't, and I was struggling and things were hard. And so I wanted to create something that was meaningful and ask the difficult questions and got to know people beyond just their athletic accomplishments. So it started there. And then once I had my two young girls, I realized that, I was thinking a lot about the civil rights movement that was happening in the 1950s and 60s, and asking myself, would I have marched? Would I have stood up? And what are the challenges of our time now? So how can I be a part of making the world a better place? How can I be part of the change and able to look back on with pride when my girls in 20 years ask me, what did you do? So now it's grown into this big community of people who want to talk about the difficult issues, the things that a lot of people are, want to bury their head in the sand about. So how can we continue to have these conversations to progress things without just ignoring them?
And Fernanda, we mentioned earlier that you've run on some of the tallest mountains of the world, including Aconcagua in Argentina, which is, I'm reading it here, 6,960.8 meters. How did you find yourself targeting mountains for running, and how can you even run at that altitude? I get sick when I touch down in Colorado, so I don't know how you do this.
Yeah, it's pretty tough. As elite athlete, so I've been racing 10 years, all the most iconic and difficult race. And being always in the podium. But then I realized I needed something that challenged myself, and also I can be an inspiration, like running on the mountains, but that is not enough for me. So this is why I created the White Flow project. That the White Flow project is, there is two big challenges. One is the running challenge that is almost impossible for me, and also the social environmental project that I do also when I'm doing this project. So for example, the Aconcagua is the highest mountain of America, so high. And I was the first woman able to run that. So it's not that I was the only crazy, like many runners, they try, but it's super tough. And also, so I was the first woman to do, so it took to me 14 hours to go up, 8 hours to go down. It's long way. It's 90K plus the 7,000 meters high. So it's giant mountain. Yeah. And then also I did, besides the project in parallel, so was the social environmental project. So I found out that 22,000 kilos of rubbish is on the base camp. So the people, they come to visit the park, and the people, they come to climb, but it's so tough, the mountain, that they bring and they eat, but they don't bring back the rubbish. So then, for sure, I talk with some authorities and blah, blah, blah. But so that was good, because I could realize that I could share that with the people inside the park, with the authorities inside the park. So that was a beautiful project.
Great. Okay. All right. We'll turn to the campaign now. I know a little bit about it, but I'm sure you two know more. Could you tell us a bit about how the campaign works, and what does it hope to achieve? The human race, I should say, hashtag the human race, right?
Yeah, I'm happy to start there, and Fernanda can add in any other details. But so yeah, hashtag the human race is moving in solidarity with climate vulnerable communities, so we can take the numbers of people participating in this and put it in front of the world leaders at the UN Climate Summit in November. And they've made these promises of an annual 100 billion from developing countries, from developed countries to developing countries. And time's running out for those vulnerable people. So the people who have contributed the least are already suffering the consequences. And so for World Humanitarian Day, we want to get the world racing against the climate crisis clock. Can't leave anyone behind. And so it's hosted on Strava, which is the world's leading exercise platform. And so we want people to join us, support the world's most vulnerable people, log 100 minutes of physical activity, that can be anything you like, between the 16th and 31st of August, and join the human race. So that's, yeah.
That's great. Wow. That's, I like how we blended the race with the race against time, right? I mean, it's a race against hitting that 1.5 degrees Celsius above pre-industrial levels that's really going to push us over the edge to some irreparable damage to the planet, which is already happening. And Fernanda, you how did you get involved with the human race? How did the hashtag the human race?
Yeah, it was a pleasure. They invited me to be the ambassador and to get involved. I think well, because I was environmental lawyer and also I have this project and I'm a ultra runner, so I think it's all connected. And yeah, and it's a beautiful connection between running and this project. I think it's just, I'm super excited for that. And yeah, I can't wait to just start on the 16th to run. And also to share that, like with all my friends, my family, because you can be walking also. The important things here is to be movement, It's 100 minutes moving. And I think it's also, this is part of what you want, to like not going by car, but like moving. So it's very interesting.
That helps the environment as well, not using your car. And it's well placed after the Olympics, because I think people watch the Olympics and they become inspired, and they love to root for one of their heroes running out there. So I think that's also part of what's happening, and I think a lot of people will be very interested. They're primed for this, I think. And this is another obvious question that I maybe it's not obvious to some, but what is the connection, do you think, between climate change and running? You feel, I feel there's a connection, but I can't articulate it. I wonder if you could help me with that.
Yeah. Do you want to go, Fernanda?
Okay, I think it's the healthy lifestyle. I think it's super interesting if you add the sport, and also like the nature. I think everything is connected, and also, as I said, like 100 minutes. You should like be moving. So you should be doing like a little effort, because this planet is so beautiful and give us so many things. Why you cannot just move, like not going to the office by car, but maybe by bike or by walking, and trying to just a little change in our lifestyle, maybe eat a little bit healthy, like less meat, like going by bike, walking, trying to run. And also I think it's super important to share that with the young people, because be the young people that you'll be in 2050 trying the neutral carbon, like this big project. So I think you need to teach also the young people to be more into sport, like to be more into nature. I think this is the why running and this campaign is, everything is connected.
Yeah, I can see a lot of connections there. Yeah, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh no, you're fine. I mean, I think it's important because for people like Fernanda and I, it's passions of ours. It's two of our worlds colliding, our two of the most important things being together. But at the end of the day, running has been a part of human beings' existence for as long as we've been human beings. So it's literally kept us alive. So it's something that human beings all over the world can participate in. It affects all runners. I mean, no amount of money or privilege can protect you from the heat, the air quality, the safe places to run. The conflicts that we're experiencing are going to continue to. So I love that this is a way of bringing together motivated, determined, committed people to bring about a message that is going to help us to support those who have as I said earlier, contributed the least but are paying the price.
And unfortunately I'm not sure I can get the addresses, the web addresses for this campaign, but I wonder if you could mention them. How can people get involved? How can they find out about this besides looking up in Instagram or Twitter, hashtag the human race?
It's worldhumanitarianday.org is the website, and you can look up on Strava. They have their challenges and you can go find it on their hashtag, The Human Race.
And they can find you, Tina, at Running for Real, right?
Yeah, Running for Real, or also just my name, Tina Muir, 88
Okay.
is, yeah.
And the same for you, Fernanda, right? If people want to follow what you're up to.
Yes, you can find Fernanda Maciel, official, and also White Flow, and then you can be following my crazy projects and in place that I've been, because I've been all the continents and the mountains, the nature, the wide place that I go, and also I like to share. Is super interesting.
That's great. And you know, it's just great to meet people who are able to put what they love together with something that matters for other people. You're doing something for yourself, but you're also being part of the world community. I think that's so inspiring to see that. And it's obvious that I can see the joy from running. I've experienced that myself. There's a certain satisfaction that comes from running, and I can see that with both of you. And I think it's great to promote. So I have a couple of other questions. I'm not sure, you know, if you want to proceed. I'm having a great time talking to you. Would you like to talk a little bit more?
I'm okay.
Yeah.
Yeah? Okay. Okay, so Fernanda, as a mountain runner, you've probably seen firsthand a lot of the effects of climate change in the environment, particularly, you know, in the regions around the mountains. What have you seen precisely, and how has it impacted your work and your activism? Besides, you mentioned the garbage that you saw piling up at base camps and other things. Have you seen a lack of snow or something like that happening as you do this?
Yeah, I've been racing in Amazon forest. So also it's a warm country, my country, Brazil, but also it's super, you have some parts is super dry. So I remember like running on the big and deep forest, but also like in some parts that you can feel it's already dry. And that part is this change of the climate change, because when it's dry, it's drier. Eh? And also here, I live in Chamonix, France, in the Alps. In front of my house, I have the Mer de Glace, is the longest glacier in France. And I've been here 12 years ago running the same glacier, and I run today, and I see that it's less snow, it's less ice. And yeah, they are predicting for like in 20 years, you'll be less 1.5 kilometers less. So, and the part of sport, for example, looking like my lifestyle, for sure, like I have less to run during the winter. People can start to see that skiing there is not so great as it was before. And also because the glaciers, they're
receding.
Yeah, the glacier is super important for the planet, so I need to preserve that. So this is why I think the solution, it's this is the why this campaign is here. But yes, I've seen many things with my eyes, and yeah, it's super interesting because I have also my point of view as a lawyer that I want to express here, but it's as a runner also I see that with my eyes in many places. I've been in Japan, in Mount Fuji, and I see that less snow, well, everywhere in the world.
Right. So it's you're actively watching the effects of climate change while you're running. That's incredible. Tina, I'm going to ask you a question because you mentioned it earlier about you're grappling with something with your health, and it has to do with women who exercise a lot. And I know I think that's part of why you started Running for Real, was to talk about things like this, and it's connected to women's health and well-being. And I wonder if you could also talk about how health and healthcare for women may be affected by climate change, and particularly in the developing world, and how women can play a role in advancing sustainable development and really mitigating and adapting to climate change.
Yeah, thank you. This is
That's a big one, I know.
a big passion area of mine, so I could talk about this for hours. Well, firstly, related to that, I want to thank the UN for, I mean, this is an example of this, giving women a seat at the table, when women are in positions of authority or power or being able to speak to things, things are going to get figured out. And we are not going to figure this thing out without adding women to this conversation. So thank you to the UN for that. But I think some of the things that come to mind are women in these affected regions, the vulnerable communities that we talked about, are at a higher risk of disease, malnutrition, sexual violence, poor mental health, lack of reproductive control, and then risk during childbirth and death. And then pulling on that thread of pregnancy, and as things continue to change and the temperature continues to rise, extreme heat can trigger premature birth and obviously higher risk of death there. Other health issues, it's been proven to be linked to congenital heart defects in newborns. So pregnant women are in more danger, and we obviously need pregnant women to continue humanity moving forward. And then there's, as things get, the more conflict comes and things change, there's going to be a healthcare issue in terms of the infrastructure will break down. And then the other part I think that's worth mentioning is, I mean, I'm very into Drawdown, the comprehensive guide to reversing global warming or climate change, and educating girls and women and family planning are number 6 and number 7 on their list. Like, really important things. Women and girls who are educated are more empowered to make decisions for themselves, which has less children, which means they will maybe have 2 children instead of 4, 6, 8. And then that means less strain on resources. That means they can educate their children so that they can take that message forward into the future. So there's so many elements of this, but yeah, this is a very important one, and not that one that is not discussed enough. So thanks for the platform to be able to talk about this.
Oh, I love the way you brought all of those social issues together, the way I haven't really heard before. It's, you know, it's one thing to worry about the climate and people think it's kind of remote, but when you start to think about all the different impacts it has on social problems that are already in place, it really exacerbates all of these. And thank you for putting that into perspective for us, because I hadn't heard it expressed that way before. And I think that's fantastic. Well, that's about all I have. Actually, that's more time than I expected to take, but I was having such a good time listening to both of you. Thank you so much for speaking with us today and for your support for this important campaign, #TheHumanRace. It was a pleasure meeting you both, truly, and learning about everything that you're doing. And I hope we can stay in touch. I hope the Chronicle, you know, can get back in touch with you and hopefully draw on your perspective and knowledge a little bit more.
Thank you
so much.